The following is a conversation I had on the live stream with José Luis Garcia del Castillo, in which we reflected about how it's been to cover one entire year of weekly live streams and on his end 20 months of live streams. So we kind of talk about the hard parts, the things that we like, the things that we're learning, and things that are changing, and other things that we're expecting to change soon. So stick with us if you want to learn more about this. Hey, it's Nono, and this is the Getting Simple podcast. Hi everyone, it's Nono here, and this is a little experiment. So this is something we have never done before, and actually you'll hear a bit more later. We're going to have a special guest, and it's something that is taking us more time than we wanted, but we're here. So this is the Getting Simple podcast live. So it's kind of hijacking the Nono.ma live stream. And I want to introduce a really special guest today, as I promised yesterday, with me, José Luis Garcia del Castillo.
Hello! I can't believe this worked. Am I? Yes, I am here. You are you're right there. And I am right here. Hello, everyone. Yes. How are you doing? No. Very happy to be here as usual.
So this has been, to leave aside the techniques, but it's been a challenge to get this technically. This is a part of a future episode of the podcast that we're releasing on celebrating 1 year of live streaming. So this is for my live stream, the Nono.ma live stream. And for those of you who don't know it, many of you probably do, José Luis has his own live stream, Parametric Camp, as you can see on his shirt. And
who made this t-shirt?
We made it. So Croquetilla and I made it. That's Bea and I. And, I want to use this live stream as an experiment to kind of join forces and join the communities and try to hear from both of our experiences, if there's anything that you guys can learn and that we can reflect upon on all of these things that we're trying to do here. I think, José Luis, you would agree with me that this has been a bit propelled by the COVID pandemic, right? We got this opportunity to kind of kickstart this project because we were kind of inwards and not able to go outside that much. And yeah, so we have a previous part of the episode that we recorded yesterday in which I gave the opportunity to the audience of the live stream to ask questions. So it was a live Q&A where I was the only one talking, but people could introduce themselves and ask questions on the chat. And today we have the same chat open, right? You can go into the chat and ask any questions. We might be able to cover it. But first, I'll direct the question to José Luis. Do you have any thoughts on what you think the podcast, and so the Getting Simple podcast and the Nono.ma live project has evolved over the last 12 months, right? Because we started with the first episode on October 7th or something, 2020. That was pointed out by Sajjad Kumarji, one of the people that comes to these live streams. And we just passed the mark of 1 year of the project. We almost covered one live stream every single week.
Can I say how remarkable it is to cover to make one live stream every week? Like the amount of discipline, the amount of self will and power, and like blocking this time in your life to make that happen, I think is quite commendable. So can I send you like thumbs up for the fact that you're maintaining that rhythm? That's pretty awesome, I think, actually. You should give yourself a pat in the back for that. I hardly can keep up that pace myself, especially with my full-time job and my personal life, etc., etc. It's sometimes very, very demanding. I have to say, between you and I, we're friends, right? So I only watch your live stream sometimes because it's also typically in a time where I'm busy with other things, my life, but I follow more or less what you have been doing. I have to say, I think it's really interesting. I am particularly a huge fan of machine learning when it applied to design, and I think in that sense, a lot of the work that you're doing on the live stream is very oriented towards that goal, and I think that's great because for some reason, I think the way these things work in the world of social media and YouTube, etc., is that you kind of have to find an identity or a story that you have to tell. And the more consistent you are with that story, or the more consistent you are with that track that you follow, for some reason, the more outreach and the more successful that outreach is. So in that sense, the consistency that you have reached, I think it's great. And I would encourage you to follow that. Now, my question to you would be about that consistency. What do you think? What do you see yourself? I've asked you this before. What is this duality between getting simple and the idea of like a lifestyle and optimizing life, etc., and then the duality of like, I'm teaching tutorials on machine learning for design, you know? How does that work for you?
Yeah, I would say it's a bit weird. It seems like a weird match. And because getting simple talks about doing less better, but I find myself often doing more and more and more, trying to do more stuff. And I try to hide a bit behind automation, right? Like trying to automate little processes that at the beginning, took me really long to do. And then that way I can simplify and not have to spend that time. Right now, as we talked last year on the podcast, right, on one of those algo podcasts that we released, I've been trying to work with other creatives, so the people who can help me edit content and keep producing at a pace that I want to produce, but being also able to disconnect, right? So I found that collaborating with maybe a podcast editor that can do the work that I was doing maybe even faster than I can, is helping me, like being able to leave the screen more often, right? And that's something that I'm looking forward to, because at the end of the day, the main thing that we're doing here is this, right? The moment when we're recording, when we're sharing knowledge, when we're teaching online, when we're writing and publishing and things like this. But all the post-processing things, it has a bit of creativity, but not really that much, right? Like the work that really matters, I would say, is like the thinking of what you're gonna do and actually doing it, right? So that's just one point on like externalizing work and things like this.
This is one of the things you have learned after 45 iterations of the Nono Life Getting Simple podcast.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things. And just yesterday morning, I managed to write a script that automates like creating all the folders and slides and things like this that I've been doing manually for the past 45 live streams, right? So now I have a lot less friction, let's say, into making one new live stream. That's why this week I made 3 instead of 1, because I had more free time. I said, I'm going to test this out to see if it's actually a bit more frictionless, right? Another thing that you mentioned about talking about simplicity and then going into talking about machine learning is, it doesn't really seem to match, but I think there is an aim of learning how to simplify hard processes and things that look really hard, right? Like coding and machine learning and data processing and things like this, with machine learning and other algorithms or systems that can let you go on with your life or do things in a simpler way. That's what we aim. But I understand that it's really hard. I mean, it's hard even for me to understand the underlying math concepts and some of the code. Like things are showing up, like new algorithms are showing up really fast. So there was a question on the previous part of this episode that talked about offering content to people in a way that the entry-level users can also follow along. And that's something that I've been trying to work out. Like sometimes I set aside some time on the live stream to digest concepts in a lower level, like trying to explain in a way that we can all understand. And we also started the Bytes series with Aziz on the podcast. That was like a series to try to talk about complex things, but bringing them down to earth, right? So maybe you can comment on what you've experienced doing that, right? Because you have also specialized in, well, I mean, you're specializing right now in like parametric modeling and like Rhino and coding and doing parametric design and advanced modeling. But I would feel, and I adventure to put words in your mouth, right? That you don't want to to feel like you have to stick with that for the long run, right? Like you might want to go out and try other things on the live stream. And so for me, I always try to list all the things that I would like to do on the live stream, so not to get into doing just like a machine learning live stream, because these things like the podcast can happen, or other creative coding things, or other things that have to do with different topics. So the question to you now is, do you think there is that flexibility is possible? And also the other question I made before is like, how do you feel you're approaching when you get people on the live stream that maybe don't even know how to code, and you're already advanced into coding in C# or Python or things like this? How do you approach that? How do you tell people to follow along, or what techniques do you use for that?
So far, I've been doing this for roughly 20 months. I literally started doing it, as you mentioned before, prompt by COVID, just because we were locked and it's something that I have been meaning to do for a long time. So I was like, yeah, why not? Let's just do it right now. I don't see the work that I do as scripting or as Rhino or as geometry. I see it as creative coding. And it just so happens that for very practical reasons, or in relation to my job as professor at Harvard University, and in relation to some of the classes that I teach there, it was just convenient to start recording material for a particular subset of techniques, which involve, in particular, the C# programming language, Grasshopper as a visual programming language, etc., etc. So my intention was to start building foundational knowledge from scratch, zero, that other people could benefit from, and then they could use to start building their skill set. I think I'm recording right now this new series called Advanced Development in Grasshopper, which for me, I did one called Introduction to Parametric Modeling, another one called Learning C#. Those were independent, but now I'm recording one that is Advanced Development in Grasshopper, which is kind of the child of these two together, right? Because it's like, it's Grasshopper, but it's also scripting, and it's for more advanced topics. So hopefully with these three main series, I would like to close a chapter of computational geometry, a particular set of software, and a particular programming language, and now start exploring other media that we haven't covered yet. So things like Unity, things like VVV, things like anything that basically involves thinking computation, writing code, and being creative, with a particular emphasis in the visual arts, in graphic design, in architecture, in those kind of fields. So as soon as that keeps evolving over time, and as soon as I believe I have covered foundational knowledge, then topics will start getting more and more advanced. But that is just something that will happen over time. The only thing that I have been purposeful about avoiding is avoiding overlapping a lot with content that people can find on the coding train, for example, which is a huge inspiration for the work that I do. And because Dan has done so much work on processing, on P5.js, etc., I'm purposely staying away from those because I think he did a great job and I don't want to duplicate the efforts. But if at some point I want to throw links with his work and my work, then I will start doing that. I will reach out to him, etc., etc. I don't know. And I see Mahmoud is saying like, VVVV, we need more Rafika Nadols. Yep, maybe we start doing some of that very soon, you know? And about the topic of how do I address who knows what, who has what skills when I'm teaching a particular topic, I honestly kind of gave up on that because, as we say in Spanish, and you know, it never rains to everyone's taste, right? So it's just impossible to cater to all tastes and all desires and everyone. So the only thing that I'm trying to do is like to build knowledge incrementally. And if I feel, which is what I wanted to do in the first place, if I feel that I want to do a playlist that is advanced development in Grasshopper, I'm going to have to teach Grasshopper and I'm going to have to teach coding first. So I start there, I build that up. And then when we move to advanced topics, like, hey, you know what? I put the effort on making all this content. Now it's your homework to go watch it if you want to follow the content that I'm doing right now. And that's the only thing really that I can offer the community, because you have to be on top of yourself, you know?
Yeah, the list of topics, at least on my end, never, I mean, it grows faster than I can tackle, right? Like the list of things ideas that say, oh, I can do a live stream on this, I can do a tutorial on this. And I would say, I would applaud you on you have a lot of practice, right? From teaching for real, right? In the physical world and different universities to prepare the lectures and prepare like a structure. Like you're really, at least as I see it from outside, you're really structured into putting an outline and say, okay, this is what we're going to go through. And, it might be more organic later seen from inside, right? But from the outside, it's like, oh, we're going to go through this and this and this and this. And it seems like it ends happening. For me, that's something I have to work on, right? I've realized like this season, as I'm calling it, so we started season 2 of the Nono live project. I want to do more of this, so more of the more things with like involving the podcast inside of the live stream. But I've also set goals to try to create the outline and start recording videos for an intro to machine intelligence for designers course. Also build a collaborative AI sketching application, right? That's something that that's what we've started doing for real. We've done like 3 or 4 work sessions so far. And yeah, so that's one of the things that I still need to practice a bit. It's like writing a bit of structure and actually following it, because that's I think what maybe, yeah, you go.
I want to say that to that topic of building a curriculum and then recording videos for that curriculum, one thing that we did the last series, the advanced grasshopper development, instead of doing it by myself, instead of sitting down and thinking about what are we going to cover in this series, I chose to have a dedicated live stream where people from the parametric camp community joined live, and where we designed the curriculum collaboratively. So I have a notepad and I was like, okay, I think we should cover so and so and so. And then I started getting recommendations from the chat, like, oh, what about this? What about that? We were discussing it, whatever. And I actually thought that process very seriously enriched the curriculum, because a lot of people gave me really good ideas that I hadn't thought of. And those ideas also triggered other content that I had in my mind, but it was not coming at that point. So one of the things that I'm learning after 20 months of doing this is that my intuition that the community around this work is important is being reinforced. It's just like the more I do community work, the more I do outreach, the more that I have people and give them the space to collaborate and to be part of the project, the more rewarding the experience is for me and for everyone else. Like the other day, I did a live stream where I was basically just like trying a library. I didn't know what it worked, whatever, and I couldn't figure it out. And then Victor Ling, also from the community, ended up like picking up the file, figuring out the problem, and now it's solved. And now we're going to be able to do that sample, record it in a real tutorial next week. So all of these things, giving more space and putting the community up in front, I think it has always been beneficial and super positive in my work. And something that I do, for example, is I try to do a special effort on having a community call every so often. We did one last Christmas. We're definitely doing this one another Christmas, which is it's a Zoom call where anyone from the community can join and can just talk. There's no agenda. Let's just chat about life, about whatever you want. And it's always great. It's very nice. I miss humans. No. I want to hang out more with humans, and I'm very happy that we're doing this,
Yeah, I would say that we did that as well. So I did we set up the goals of the season live, and there were a few people online that have contributed to some of the ideas. And we also are starting to use more and more the Discord server, in which people can, also throw ideas. And actually, one of the links that Rob Beal sent to the links, right, like the related project links for when we set the goals, has determined the things that we've done over the past 3 live streams, right? Which is awesome. Like maybe if he hadn't shared those, we would be doing something completely different right now. And that, just thinking about that if I do something on my own, maybe it can be enhanced by other people's ideas is really cool. And I've been talking about that, like Zoom call also to get to know the people who are already on the live stream. But I haven't done that yet. We need to also do that. And I don't know. Yeah, what else? What else you got?
I don't know what I got. I had a really busy day. I did a lot of stuff today, very strange stuff.
Yeah, I would say, so one highlight. So this thing that we're doing, here with like 2 people on screen, it's been a technical challenge for us. We gave up 3 times, but we tried again, and it happened that it seemed like it worked. I feel that this is impressive. Like Jose Luis is in Cambridge, and I'm in Spain, right? In Malaga, Spain. And it feels like we're on the same room, right? Like it seems like we're recording next to the other. And
especially when I do this and I look at you like, oh yeah, look at that. No.
Yeah, I'm looking at the wall.
What's up?
I'm looking at the wall right there. And I would say this is actually the live stream that we've had the most people live for the longest, right? So you've brought people to our community, probably people from your sphere, right? Like true fans that you have already at Parametric Camp. And yeah, we'll try to make it work to put many of the links of things that we've mentioned today. I would, before we wrap up and finish today, I would say this is probably going to make it into the podcast episode. I mean, that's the whole purpose of doing this live. There seem to be like people coming and going live. I would really invite you to write something on the chat, maybe even just say hello or say where you're connecting from or how you found us. Like, are you coming from Parametric Camp, from social media, from my live stream or something? Because I don't know. I think that's one of the highlights that I've mentioned repeatedly that the podcast didn't give me, and it was direct connection to the community, right? Like to the people who are following. And I think people who were listening to the podcast before I started live streaming have reached out to me through the podcast because they have found a way to directly share links or like comments or ask questions or have a back and forth conversation, right? And that's super cool. I would recommend this to anyone who's doing maybe a podcast or a blog or things like this. Try to find a way to have a two-way conversation, right? I also know that, at least for me, I have a community that is still like something I can manage, let's say. It's not like I'm getting thousands of emails every day as other people, but I've heard like many people start that way, and then you get like Cal Newport or Lex Friedman or these people who are, they're not able to reply to our emails, which, it's great, like to get like thousands of emails a day, probably overwhelming. But yeah, long comment, but two-way conversations are a lot better.
They always are.
Okay.
Even one to many and many to many, which is a very database way of looking at these things.
So Mahmoud Allah is saying, what about Unity and robotics ML training? It feels you're talking to each other. I don't know if you've seen it on LinkedIn today. People are developing VR apps for this. Community-based servers are the future. Yeah, I think I've seen, I don't know if it's called Horizon or something, like Facebook is making one of these platforms to be able to collaborate in real time and have 3 like virtual reality meetings. And yeah, I also would say about this format, if you're listening to the podcast or the audio only version of this, right now we're live streaming. So I'm on the bottom left corner of the screen and you can see me and my mic and my Getting Simple t-shirt. And on the other end, you can see Jose Luis with his black Parametric Cam t-shirt and, his streaming glasses and things like this. And you can go and see the video where, you can see us on YouTube. I will take a chance. So my channel, you can go to nono.man, find the channel. You can go to youtube.com/parametriccamp to go to Jose Luis's tutorials and videos. And I think this format is going to give us a lot to play with. Like we need to do some like pair programming or live coding or something like this, I will talk because I know that you guys like the technical aspects as well.
Glitch.com would be super cool for like live coding at the same time.
Yeah, that would be. There is also a plugin for pair programming on Visual Studio Code.
You're right.
Where you can do collaborative editing. But yeah, Glitch would be super cool. And what I was coming to is that, yeah, this format, probably we can do things where we're merging some topics, right? Jose Luis and I were talking about maybe recording. This is kind of a spoiler alert. We were thinking of recording like a side of more machine learning, like tutorial, and then he would record a second part, and then we'll merge them together and try to make kind of a collaboration. We could even do it live, where we, one is like coding one part and then the other takes over and that's the other part. That would be super cool. And now we've sort of promised to do that at some point. And yeah, I lost my track of thought. I don't know what I was going to say. Oh yeah, the technical aspect. So this happened because Jose Luis's machine is super powerful. And we managed to pipe my Zoom webcam with the green chroma into his OBS. So everything's being streamed into my live stream through his OBS setup and all of these kind of mesh of things. I don't know. There's a lot of tech involved.
And I want to thank you also, because when you proposed this idea, I was like, no, it's just easier if we just pipe the green screens to YouTube and then we edit this in Premiere or whatever. But you were like, no, can we just try? And then we tried and it works. So I tend to do this a lot. I tend to like, no, let's do the easy way. But like, no, you have to push it. Let's push it a little bit and see, And it actually, I'm seeing the stream right now, and it's looking fine. It's looking pretty cool, actually.
One thing that we haven't talked about before we go, how are you doing with like editing and post-processing and uploading all these videos? That's a tedious job that you didn't sign up for. You wanted to do a live stream and you ended up doing a lot of other stuff.
Yes, that is a very tedious process. So for those of you who may not know, what I do on my channel is that I just go live and then I record tutorials where I go like, oh, I'm going to start recording. And then I'm like, all right, let's do so and so and so. And then I basically record clips that then need to be cut and edited, etc. As Nono was mentioning, I'm very lucky to have had the help of many people from the parametric cam community, including including Remy, including Arasto, who's currently helping me a lot with this editing. And we actually have some scripts to automate the process also. But at the end of the day, so the whole process of like, yeah, you have the video, but that generating the thumbnail, generating the cover, thinking about the title, writing the description, all the links, generating the subtitles, then linking the cards properly, then the end screen, whatever, it actually has a lot of overhead. So
yes,
it is just what it is. And if anyone is watching this, I would very much appreciate help with that. And I'm at a point where I'm even considering like asking for that kind of help and retributing that help economically to some people. Well, but that's also not, I don't want to disclose things, but like maybe this will happen sometimes when I'm going to need professional help in doing this, because it just takes a lot of time. And I would like to spend that time recording tutorials than like wasting
going for a walk
and or like my full weekend just like doing Photoshop work and that kind of stuff.
So luckily, I think for us, we know how to code and we can create our own tool. So I actually showed Jose Luis a preview that I've shown on the live stream, a preview of a thumbnail maker that I'm making. So hopefully that can simplify our process in making thumbnail images, because it's just too tedious, and usually it involves Photoshop or like other software and things like this. And they end up being this tedious thing that you have to do. Like, oh, I have 4 videos and now I have to do the things. And yeah, with everything, right? Everything that you want to do to add a bit more care, right? Like adding a description, adding the subtitles, adding the markers, adding like the end cards or things like this. I don't know. It just adds a lot of friction, so much that you end up saying, I wish I didn't have to do this. But at the same time, you record maybe 2 hours of content and you can identify 2, 3, 4 clips that you say, okay, this would be worth uploading on its own, right? It would be something that people probably will make use of, or it ends up also, we're not going to get into that conversation, I guess, but the YouTube algorithm also, it's like, it's super weird, right? Like you might do a 2-hour live stream and nobody watches, and then you clip 5 3-minute parts, and then they get thousands of visits, right? So I guess it's how you package the videos that makes the difference. And also that you guys have told me, right? Like many times I repackage a video in like 4 or 5 minutes, and then you can watch it a lot faster and you get what you wanted to learn, and then you go and that's it. You don't have to be kind of filtering the content in a 1 or 2 hour stream. And Sorab is saying you should try out Camtasia templates. I'm using Descript, and I'm talking about that more and more lately. I'm getting close to a really good workflow, but there's still like really like parts that have friction.
I believe Saurabh knows, but the way we do the editing at Parametric Cam is that we actually use Camtasia, because when you edit the files, it saves a JSON file. And it turns out that that's very easy to read with scripts and then to process that programmatically. So we use Camtasia for the visual editing, but then all that happens afterwards is done from code that reads from the Camtasia file, which again is written internally in JSON, which is great. It's very awesome.
So I'll quickly, it's not a question, but we have a comment on the chat from Mahmoud Ramdan. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. It says that they just started with a Grasshopper channel and they did their first live stream, right? So they say it's scary, right? And that's something that if you go back to live stream number 1 for me, I felt similarly to when I was recording the first podcasts. It was, you can hear my voice is a bit more trembling, right? Like what I'm probably doing now. And that just is practice. It's just pushing through it. And then sometimes your body gets accustomed to being in front of the camera and passing through the uncomfortable moments that have to do with this bug that, takes 20 minutes to fix, or maybe never gets fixed. And then you have to end the stream and say, we'll figure it out at some point. So yeah, the scary moments, I guess, happen, and we're only, we don't have like thousands of concurrent viewers as other people do. I can't imagine what it would be to have like, I don't know, like 20K or 100K people seeing and like typing, and like that has to be too overwhelming. Mahmoud Alad says, I want to thank you. What were you going to say?
Yeah, Mahmoud Ramdane, do you take tips? I have 3 recommendations for you. First of all, just do it. No perfection, no polished, just do it. This is consistency. It's like going running. You get better just by going every single week and not skipping it and not skipping it and not skipping, and you will get better. Second recommendation, don't care about what do you think you should be recording. Only care about what you want to be recording. Whatever you're passionate, whatever you want. If this is about francophonic videos and if it's about a particular way of using Grasshopper, whatever it is, don't care about everyone else. Care about doing something that you are happy with. And the third one, use this to find your own voice. At some point, you will discover that you like certain videos, or you have a certain style, or you have a certain visual communication, and then cling to that, because you want to do it in a way that you feel comfortable, you feel proud, and that it speaks to what you like and the way you want to manifest yourself to the world.
That's really, very good. Yeah, at some point, I think there is this duality, right? Between the thing that you want to start doing and the reason why you start a project, and what the community, or maybe what you think the YouTube algorithm or like people who are coming to your stream are asking, right? So probably just leave aside the YouTube algorithm. That shouldn't influence your content unless you're making a living out of this, right? That's your only thing, because, you know, if you're making money only with YouTube and that's your thing, which I'm not there yet, I don't think I'll be, you probably have to do that, right? There's people who work, that's their daily job, right? Like creating clickbait or maybe useful material, but in a way that is being crafted to attract viewers, many viewers. The other thing is, you might want to listen to the community if your project is getting more serious and you actually want people to get something out of what you're teaching, at least on the format. Maybe hear the recommendation of what type of videos helps them learn the better, or what type of content they get bored with, right? Then you can maybe tweak a bit, but I would go with Jose Luis there, in that you have to stick with whatever you want to do. And I always say that at the beginning of the live streams when I'm going to code, that's my 2-hour slot where I reserve for myself to code on the things that I want to play with. And usually, you know, when things get boring because it seems like it's an obligation, you can see that I just sort of like skip that topic and then move into something else, right? Which sometimes is valid.
Yeah, when you're making a video just because you think you have to make that video, but you don't really want to, at that point, you should not be making that video. Because why? I mean, unless you're making a living of this, which it's very, very difficult, you know? And even if you do end up making a living out of this, like, I'm not sure if I would want this to be my full-time job, because I enjoy it. And it feels like when it becomes a job, there's like all this overhead and all these other things that you need to consider and you need to take into consideration, that it kind of ruins the fun. I think that's a little bit why I decided to never become a professional DJ, even though how much I love DJing, but like I did not want to deal with making that for a real living, or everything that the way my life would change if I have to be on top of that every single day.
Yeah, I think I'm really bad at that. I'm really good at making hobbies turn into serious projects, right? Like obligations and things like this. And, you know, I try to balance a bit with like play and work and when projects get too serious. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard, and it should be, you know, you should be really clear about why you're doing that in case you're going to pursue doing videos or live streaming.
All right, Mr. Ma.
Yeah. I think this makes it. So I want to thank everyone who's listening, who's watching, especially to the people who were able to join live. Thanks for being there. And, you know, thanks, Jose Luis, also for bringing and kind of meshing the communities together for one time.
Thanks to the community for meshing with each other.
Yeah. So let's see how this experiment sounds on the podcast, how it turns out to be. And I'm always eager to do experiments like this. And yeah, thanks for being with us today, Jose Luis. I just want to say, kind of to close the episode, that you can find everything that I do at nono.ma or sketch.nono.ma for the weekly posts that I put out there. You can submit your questions, voice questions, or even written questions to gettingsimple.com/ask about this or any previous episodes. And I'll remind you again that you can go to youtube.com/parametriccam to see this guy's live stream. He's doing a really good job and he's like pushing through it. And, you know, he has an awesome amount of material. I think, you know, one comment about habits and hobbies becoming too serious would be, I'm still trying to figure out how it feels when you don't have to do the toiling part, right? Like the part of editing everything and uploading and stuff. And I'm really looking forward to having a tiny team that can help me out with all these things, so I can focus in the more creative parts, right? And yeah, we'll see you online. Thanks a lot for watching, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks a lot. You guys can reach out to me at Nono ESP, so that's at NONOESP on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to say your handle.
If you want to reach out to the work that we do at Parametric Camp, like Nono mentioned, just go to youtube.com/parametric camp with 2 C's. And you can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter under Parametric Camp. And if you want to follow me in particular, my handle on Instagram is Garcia del Castillo, my full last name altogether. And yeah, and that's it.
Thanks, everyone. It's been awesome to share this time with you. And bye. We'll see you. We'll stream. And maybe one time we can see you in person as well.